In this video, we're going to go over the next topic of host hardening, which is managing permissions. So after we've created a user or group, we can grant this user or group certain permissions to folders and file access. So we can either do this at a folder level and all of its contents, or at a file level. So if we grant permissions or revoke permissions from a folder, we can have that pass on to all the subfiles, or we can just have it granted to that folder. We can then revoke any permissions from anything with inside that folder, or we can add permissions to anything with inside that folder. So this leads us to permission inheritance. So permission inheritance works this way. If I give someone access to a folder and all of its contents, that is inheritance, meaning that the privileges of the overarching folder are going to be passed down to the files and subfolders within that folder. So let's go over what permission inheritance looks like. So the total permissions are going to be equal to the inherited permissions plus the allowed permissions minus the denied permissions. So let's start with this top folder. So the inherited permissions in this case looks like this user is going to be restricted from seeing anything in this folder and all of its subcontents. However, we have overridden this rule by having allowed permissions to have this user be able to have access to this folder and all of its contents. So that's why they have access to this PowerPoint file and this text file. Now we have minus denied permissions, so we have explicitly denied them access to this XLS file. When it comes to assigning permissions, in Windows there are 6 standard permissions and there's 13 specialized. In Unix there are 3 permissions. It's either read, write, or execute. So read allows you to open the file, write allows you to make changes to the file, execute allows you to actually run the file, also known as RWX. For Windows, different permissions can be assigned to any number of individual accounts and groups. One restriction of Unix is that the permissions can only be assigned to the account owner, a single group, and all other accounts. So let's look at what assigning permissions in Windows would look like. So first of all, we're going to right-click a folder, such as in this case, the Pictures folder, and then we will look at the properties of this folder. We will see which groups and users should have access to this folder. So as we can see here that I have access to this folder. We can then also see the permissions that this user has. So as you can see here are the 6 permissions that Windows comes with. If you want to explore more permissions, you can click on this Advanced button. We can also disable inheritance. So if this is a folder, all the privileges that we give to the user for this specific folder are not going to be passed on to all of the subfolders and files. We can add additional users to have access to this particular folder as well. So what I want you to do is create a text file with 1 sentence in it, and then do the following. Right click on the file, select Properties, then go to the Security tab, click Advanced, change its security permissions to include the group you created in the previous learning activity, but only allow this group to have read and execute and read privileges, and then add the guest account from the previous learning activity with full control. So go ahead and do this on your own. Pause the video and then come back to compare your answer. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a folder called test. I'm going to right click inside of here, click new, and then select new text document. I'll name this text document test.txt. I'll go ahead and edit it, and I'll just add this is a test file. Save that and close it. So what I'm going to do is right click this file, click Properties, go to the Security tab. I'll go ahead and click this Advanced button. And then we're going to add the group as we previously mentioned. So this group that we created was called the test group. I'll go ahead and check for names. Sure enough, there's the text group. Per the slide instructions, you're supposed to give read and execute and read permissions. So we'll go ahead and keep those checked. We'll click Show Advanced Permissions just to show you that here you can see all 13 permissions that are available to you in the Windows operating system. I'll go ahead and go back to Basic Permissions, click OK, and then we'll go ahead and add another user. This time instead of a group, we're going to add the test user. Check names, click OK. And this one we are asked on the slide to give full control. When I check that box, it actually grants all the permissions. As you can see, all those check boxes are checked. I'll go ahead and click OK, and OK. So now it means that these users should be able to have access to this particular file.